In business news, the East Africa Chamber of Commerce is a non-profit platform that promotes trade and investments between the United States and East Africa. The EACC will hold its inaugural Trade and Investment Summit USA meetings in September and October 2016. I recently sat down with Ronnie Mayanja. He's a board member of the EACC, and asked him what opportunities exist in East Africa for American investors.
We're looking at sectors like agriculture, we're looking at sectors like infrastructure, we're looking at sectors like tourism to actually see how these governments can actually be able to send representatives and actually make a difference in terms of tap into the American companies that could do business on the other side.
Somebody looking at the East African market, of course, gets impressed by the sheer numbers of the people who reside there, over 160 million, perhaps close to 170 million. Question is, how do you explain to somebody that there is a viable market in a region where a number of countries seem to be fairly unstable for a potential investor? They ask those questions, how do you convince the person that it's a good place to go in and invest?
Of course, one of the things that I do acknowledge, especially when you look at what is going on in Burundi, for instance, the instability is definitely documented. The one thing, though, that the citizens of the region will agree on is a bigger market. We're working towards that whole perfection. Think about a country like the United States has been around for 200 years. We've only been around, say, 52, 53 years for the region. So I think it's still a work in progress, but definitely you make a good point that the leaders and the leadership has to also do a little bit more to make sure that there's stability whereby all the other countries.
Besides stability, one of the other things that really undermines business, trade across the region is lack of infrastructure. Many parts of those countries are not easily accessible, and so potential investor, somebody you're talking to in the United States, is saying, let's go and invest in East Africa. They raise that. How are you addressing that with the countries themselves?
For us, we're creating sort of a hub whereby if, for instance, instead of Uganda government of Tanzania or Rwanda trying to organize a day where they invite investors to Washington, to their embassy, we are creating a hub through this conference, our Trade and Investment Conference, to allow for them to actually come and be either showcase what potential opportunities do exist in their countries, respective countries, that is Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, depending on whichever country you look at, and then people from here who might have interest in those sectors to actually tap into that. So ours is creating an opportunity where we can actually be able to grow those sectors and to allow for these people to harness those sectors. We are just creating the environment, so to say, one as business owners and business leaders, and also as native East Africans who are now American citizens, just to try and see how we could have a synergy of sorts.
So now, break down a little bit the opportunities that exist across the region, and perhaps you can give us a sense of which particular country perhaps is better suited for this kind of investment.
Of course, their biggest foreign exchange earner is tourism, but they are looking to do investments in education, for instance. And then, of course, agriculture is the second priority they have. Look at countries like Uganda. Infrastructure has been key. You get it, building infrastructure. And then, of course, IT for Uganda and Rwanda is also key. Those are areas where there's a little bit of virgin sort of investment opportunities. And then, of course, mobile money platforms now. People remit and use money using, basically send and receive money using mobile money platforms. So we want to see how we can actually be able to engage people in the IT sector, as well as, those types of technologies, like Safaricom is doing in Kenya to actually grow those sectors. So there are many, but I would tell you that tourism is definitely a big foreign exchange earner. You're looking at agriculture, you're looking at infrastructure development, roads especially, we need that, dams and bridges.